Hey, what's up guys? Nick here, host of the Informative Fisherman Show, and I'm out here on the California Delta today doing a little bit of fishing, but I want to go over this month's Lucky Tackle Box Panfish box. This is the November box, so let's break this bad boy open and check it out. Okay, first we have the 2-inch Maniac Minnow. This is a Maniac custom lure product. This is a swim bait slash grub style bait. This is a straight retrieve style right here. You can see that it has that classic grub type of tail for kicking. So, and the profile of a regular fish would need it be your swim bait. And that's a 2-inch right there, thin profile. This is absolutely fantastic for crappie or big red ears or small bass, even lake trout too. These suckers will eat them up, I promise you. It's a very limber, soft plastic. The tail kicks absolutely fantastic. It has an abnormally large tail for this size body. What that means is at a slower retrieval rate, you're gonna get a better kick out of that tail, which is good because a lot of time for crappie, you gotta really slow down to get that tail kicking. I would rig this on a variety of jig heads, probably 1/8 ounce being the largest, going up from there to a 1/64 would probably be the lightest. I would probably go to that 1/32 probably right off the bat to get it started. I've caught a lot of fish on these. I even had fun out casting this on ultralight tackle for stripers. I would probably be fishing this on anywhere from 2 to 6 pound line on a ultralight setup up to a lighter rod, a light power class rod. Probably somewhere for my ultralights I would go from 6 foot, and for my lighter rods probably up to that 7'6" for that. But this is a cast out and straight retrieve. Count your depth down, always start shallow, cast, count it down, 1, 2, retrieve it all the way back to you, cast, count again, 1, 2, 3, 4, and retrieve it. That's a straight retrieve style, grub style slash swim bait style lure right there that can absolutely put them in the boat. So here we have a Blakemore Standout Stacker for perch. What this is, it's a jig on the bottom. Just up from there is they have their Standout style hook, which is pretty darn cool, which keeps that hook from laying down on your leader. If you're jigging your jig down here, it keeps that hook locked into a straight position. A lot of the times you can put a live minnow on there. You can rig up your favorite plastic on there. You know, even with the jig down here, you can tip it with a minnow, and it's got a little barrel swivel up from there. So basically your jig is your bottom weight, and that's the Slab Daddy jig on there. So your jig's your bottom weight. Up from there you have that empty hook to put whatever bait you want on there. Most of the time I'm running a live minnow on there and put this sucker under a float and just slowly twitch it. Drives crappie crazy, drives bass crazy, big bluegills, yellow perch, whatever you're fishing for, it'll drive them nuts. But this is an absolutely sick rig right here. This happens to be the 1/16 ounce, which is an absolutely super versatile weight to get started off with. Now here's a product made by Dynamic Lures. This is really cool. I know it looks like a little lipless crankbait, and that's exactly what it is, but it's designed for vertical fishing, for ice fishing. It's called the HD Ice, for vertically jigging up and down in one spot. A lot of companies don't design baits for specifically doing that. Here's a really cool thing that I like to do. I like to vertically jig my panfish. You've probably seen me doing it in past episodes before. Absolutely sick. I've put some huge red ears so far this year in the boat with this bad boy right here. This one happens to be in the fire craw, depending on what color you get. You know, you want to match up to your scenario, whether they're feeding on crawfish, whether they're feeding on shad. That's the color you pretty much want to go with. Very, very cool bait. Has a nice smooth shimmer and doesn't roll over on itself. When you're vertically jigging, you're going to lift up and you're going to follow your line down. You don't want to drop your rod tip to where you have a bunch of slack. You want to jig it up and follow it down smoothly but fast at the same time. You don't want to suspend your lure into a slow fall. Jig it up, let it fall down. Jig it up, let it fall down. And this bait is absolutely fantastic at that. It's 2 inches, so it's killer for crappie, walleye. I'm sure guys have probably even caught muskies on these things ice fishing. It has the little profile of a perfect size bait fish. It's wide to where it looks like a big meal, but it's very thin. It's got a thin profile, which helps in that colder water. Those more lethargic fish don't want to feel a ton of displacement from a bait. They want to feel a smoothness, a bait that's not representing a challenge, whether that's a slow bait or a bait that's very thin in profile but looks like a big tasty meal. So that HD Ice can be perfect for that presentation. Now here's the Southern Pro Tackle Brim Bug. This is kind of cool, and a lot of guys I think could rig this wrong. I'm gonna pull it out here and show you this. This bait can do something a little bit different than not a lot of your traditional plastics. So you look at this, okay, it's got 4 appendages on it. It's got a little small tapered head and a fat head on there. The benefit to this is you put your jig head into this fat head right here and you drag it across the bottom. As this thing runs into obstacles and hops over, it looks like a little creature shimmying along the bottom. This is designed for, once again, that 1/64 ounce jig head up to an 1/8 ounce, which I like to throw. But the difference is I'm not often hopping it off the bottom. I'm not doing that slow retrieve as much as I am dragging my jig head. I'll cast it out there, make sure I'm on the bottom. I'm not looking for an overly grassy area, although that could work just fine with the lighter jig head in the grassy area, but I'm trying to put it on a little bit beefier. So I'm probably gonna jump up closer to that 1/8 ounce right off the very bat and start dragging it. It gives me that bottom contact. It looks like a little creature shimmying along down there, and those bigger panfish that are, you know, associating to the bottom at that time will eat this thing up. It comes in a ton of different colors, but absolutely sick bait that you should definitely have in your tackle box. Now here we have the Southern Pro Grubs. All right, they call it the teaser tail, and you know what's funny? I didn't even put that in my head until I actually started fishing these things. They're 1.5 inches long. I fished grubs, heck, ever since I was born. I think I came out the womb fishing a grub. But believe it or not, these things stand out amongst all my grubs, and I have pretty much every manufacturer out there. The thing I like about these grubs is they're really, really soft. They kick at super slow speeds, and they're durable. I'm not sure how they managed to put all 3 of those things together. You usually get one or the other. You get a really durable bait that doesn't kick as well, that you have to reel faster. But these things, I've been fishing them a lot lately, and I love them. I fished the black, the chartreuse, the white. I haven't been able to go wrong. This happens to be the chartreuse right here. If you got chartreuse, that's for that greenish water, that dingy water. It stands out really well to fish amongst a variety of conditions, but I like to use that pure chartreuse when that water's real green. The middle of the summertime, if that water's real dingy and dark, I'll use the black. If there's a lot of shad in the system or chrome looking bait fish, they have that shad looking finish in there. It's kind of like a silver with some flake in it, or I'll use a pure white at that point. But these are absolutely killer grubs. You can never go wrong with the grub, and so far I'm absolutely loving the Southern Pro versions. Here we have the Mr. Crappie Spin Daddy. This is another Blakemore product. These things have been around for a long time, and the reason for that is they flat out work. Okay, this spinner on here, if that water's really, really cold, a spinner could really slow that retrieval of that bait down. The dunk, 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 dunk. It drives fish crazy, that thump. And that little round blade right there, that's like a rounded / teardrop. It's more of like an Indiana style blade, which shows bait fish, gives a little bit of thump. It's a very versatile bait right there. I love fishing spinners when it gets cold or when I'm searching for fish. I could cover water. I don't have to sit there and shake it. I'm casting, I'm fanning an area looking to find fish. And this comes through that strike zone substantially slow while I'm covering a lot of water. This could really help me find them fast. It's a big profile to where I can get those bigger panfish. If you're looking for those trophy panfish, throwing on something like this is really gonna put them in the boat for you. The Spin Daddy, so far, I've been catching toads on this thing. I haven't been catching dinks, but I am not complaining. This is a really cool setup right here. So if you haven't got this yet, or if you've got it in your mailbox waiting for you, go get it out and wing this sucker down the bank, and I promise you're gonna put some killer fish in the boat. Okay, now here we have the Lip Rippers Mini Ripper Z. These are also a very cool bait. These are small, these are tiny, to where you can catch panfish from this size to this size. It doesn't matter. A lot of the time when I'm out pan fishing, I love a lot of bites to get my confidence up, to keep me going. I love catching a lot of fish. I don't care if they're this big, or what have you. If I can go out and catch 50 to 100 fish, I'm loving it. These ones right here, when they have this little round tail right here, okay, they don't have a paddle tail. They're not for casting out and straight for retrieving. They're for casting out, letting them fall, and kind of jigging them back. A jig retrieval, cast it out, let it fall, lift that rod tip, let it drop, lift that rod tip, let it drop. You can do that through the middle of the water column for trout, for suspended panfish, and you can also let these get down to the very bottom and hop them off the bottom. That's one thing I love to do. I've had a lot of success with these, and the design of these is very unique. It's a very thin profile, but has little bulbs along that profile, which shows the fish something completely different than what your traditional panfish plugs would be. You can put these in your box, compare them to anything else you have, and trust me, it is a different look. These guys have been doing some really cool things, and if you go check out their social media stuff, you'll see them whacking a bunch of big old panfish on these bad boys. Okay, you should also have the Mustad Superfine Crappie hooks. These are in a size 4, which is a very versatile size for crappie. I love 4s and I love 6s. This is a live bait style hook. They're very, very light, and the shank is extremely long. The reason for this is you can tie it directly to your leader, and that hook will stick out there to where when you nose hook that minnow onto that hook, he's not going to get caught up in your leader, and the length of that shank will allow that crappie or whatever bait fish chooses to eat it to not run into your line. Dropping straight down, a shorter shank hook, he's running directly into your line. He may deject the bait faster if he feels something odd forcing up against his face, versus that longer shank, he's going to chomp over it, not run into your leader at all, and get a much better bite on that chunk of bait. Therefore, it's going to put more fish in the boat. Mustad's been doing some really killer things. This is a specialized hook, which is super awesome for pan fishing, especially with those live bait applications. So give these bad boys a try. If you haven't taken them out of the package, worked them yet, you really should. Your bait's gonna swim a lot more freely on that lighter setup. You got light line, a light hook, a longer shank, really killer for those live bait times. Now take a look at this spin daddy. Take a look at that thing. I bet you didn't notice something. See this little tiny clip up here? That's the KVD Mustad Fast Clip. These things are so small and tiny. I get questions all the time. People say, should I use a snap swivel on my lures? And I say, no, they're too big. They affect the bait negatively. The cool part is about these little clips, and I'm going to show you a close-up here, is it's rounded, and the way the snap works, it doesn't negatively affect the action of your bait whatsoever, and it makes popping your bait on and off extremely fast, substantially easy, and it hardly has any weight to where it's not going to affect it at all. It's basically just like tying directly onto your line. So I'm a new super advocate of these things, and I'm using them on all of my rods today. And you know what's funny? I haven't noticed a single issue whatsoever. Check these bad boys out. These are super cool. I used to be all anti-quick attachment stuff, but guess what? These are saving me a lot of trouble. I got out here when it was freezing cold this morning. The dexterity in my fingers was there, wasn't really there. I didn't want to tie 15 different knots to try to figure out what was working today. Having this little fast attach clip like that made my day a heck of a lot easier. Yeah! Woo! On the stacker, baby. Oh, look at that red here. Yeah. Stacker rig, ate that minnow. Awesome. Well guys, I'm Nick the Informative Fisherman. We appreciate you guys watching. Make sure to visit luckytacklebox.com, and if you haven't subscribed, get on board. Yeah, baby.